Hi, my name is Ben Seabrian. I'm a product manager from Perceptive Software. Welcome to our webinar on Electronic Records Management 101, from planning to deployment. Today we're talking about electronic records management as it relates to government agencies. We're going to talk a little bit about the directive, but mainly focus on the challenges federal agencies will be facing as they make that transition to electronic records management. It is important for the public sector to follow what the feds are doing and the challenges that they are facing in case they want to use their processes as a roadmap for their own organizations. So today we'll be going over why we're here, where your organization is now, what are going to be the biggest challenges of electronic record keeping, where most companies should begin, and how can we help. So let's take a quick look at records from a historical context. First, I'd like to take a quick survey. Do you currently have tools or resources to manage your electronic records? A, yes, we have tools in place and implemented. B, yes, we have a tool, but no resources to implement or have not implemented. C, no, and we are looking for a tool. Or D, no, and we have no budget. Go ahead and vote now. Now let's take a step back in time. Archiving is not a new practice. Protecting important information has been around since the Stone Age. In fact, we still take great care in preserving drawings found in caves. This information is important to our history, just as the electronic information being created today will be important to future generations. Think about someone 100 years from now finding a floppy disk. They will likely have no way to retrieve the data, but there will be people who specialize in obsolete technology, just as there are specialists for obsolete languages today. It really wasn't that long ago, in 1950, that the Federal Records Act was passed. In 1978, it was amended that the presidential papers were to be owned by the government and housed in the National Archives, or NARA for short. Paper records were growing like crazy. It seems surprising that there were any trees left. So now there are a couple of new challenges that are introduced. The first one is computers. This has caused the number of documents to increase at a much faster rate than before. And two, new legislation that required organizations to keep their records for long periods of time. Records management was not a perfect science, and there is not a single perfect way to manage records that works for every organization. What organizations succeeded in doing was going from a mess of a warehouse to a warehouse full of information that could be retrieved via a process and destroyed according to a policy. But now, we are facing even more challenges, and they're changing at a very rapid pace. Physical records management best practices all of a sudden didn't make sense, and we have to adjust to accommodate the massive amounts of electronic information being created. The Presidential Memorandum addresses this transition and acknowledges that we have to start now. Let's take a quick minute to take a look at where we are today and where we are headed in the future. 2013 was a pretty busy year for NARA. They focused on assisting agencies with being successful in the transition to electronic records. Agencies should have already submitted their first report on the progress that they have made, and by the end of the year, they should be putting plans in place to achieve the transition to electronic records. So this year and next year, all agencies' record officers must have NARA certified records management training, and there must be training designated for all employees that have any records management responsibilities. Ultimately, the goal is to be managing all permanent records and electronic information by 2019. This is a pretty aggressive goal and a pretty exciting one as well. With other electronic records initiatives going on in healthcare and other industries, we're headed for a big shift on how we manage and archive this information. This is a pretty big shift in responsibilities for records managers. There are a lot of discussions around best practices in social media, PDFA, big buckets. It seems impossible, but we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do now to make it more plausible. Now let's talk about the challenges with electronically stored information. Let's go ahead and take another poll real quick about how you are currently managing your records. So are all of your records currently managed in-house? A, yes, 100%. B, yes, but some of them go to a third party. Or C, I don't know, or it's unknown for your organization. Go ahead and vote now. A recent survey by Meritok revealed that 63% of federal records are managed in-house. 9% are unknown, or they don't know how they are managed, and 16% of them are managed by NARA or a third party. That survey concluded that 8.4 billion records are being managed government-wide, and by 2015, it's expected to increase to 20.4 billion records. With the average agency spending around 17% more than they have actually budgeted, the federal government will end up spending approximately $84.1 million per agency on records management. The majority of these records today are physical, but they are transitioning to electronic records, and that's no easy task. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's look at some of the challenges that we're facing today in the world of records. There's been a decline in the number of records managers in organizations, but that's really more of the impact of these roles evolving into an information management role, focused on more than just the records management, but also the security, the discovery, and the retention of these records. The creation of electronic records is rapidly growing, as we saw from the survey, and this increase is happening across many locations in many repositories and across many devices. Records are not easily accessible. Mission-critical records need to be available and reliable. A growing dependency on mobile technology makes this essential to organizations. With all of the devices and information that can be stored, and there can be multiple versions of this information, which can cause serious issues or delays when the most up-to-date information is not readily available or identifiable. If we look at the progression of email, it has replaced many forms of communication: voicemail, fax, written communication, and even those 15-minute face-to-face meetings. This is all now being done via email. Where email has replaced communication, texting or instant messaging is beginning to replace email, and that is being used more and more at the professional level. The exhaustive effort and cost of Ediscovery has skyrocketed due to the sheer volume of information that must be found if it is retrievable and if it is in a retrievable format. And then it must be reviewed for relevance and private information. So this can take weeks or months of time at a high price only to find out that the information has been duplicated many times. Authenticity is often questioned as well. Information must be managed in a defensible way. And let's not forget one of the biggest challenges, user expectations. A typical user expects two different things. Number one, they don't want to have to do anything extra or different than they're doing today. And two, if they do have to change, it better be easy. So where do we begin? Last year has been focused on getting things in order for the feds. Now seems like a good time for the public sector to evaluate if formal records management is a need for them. Federal agencies should have or should be doing an inventory of their information, what they have, where it is, and who owns it. So how many repositories do you have? Where is all of this being managed, and is it being managed consistently? If not, what steps need to be taken at the organization, and in what priority order? Federal groups should have reported any unscheduled records to NARA by the end of last year. Doing an inventory would have helped them accomplish this. So what needs to be done? We need to establish policies and educate the staff. What is a record and what is not a record? These are the basic things to many of us, but it is essential for every user to know what their responsibility is. What metadata guidelines do we need to follow? Doing some upfront work here will save a lot of time when searching for information. We also need to assess risks. This will help prioritize our next steps. Are there areas of higher risks? What are those areas of risk? Financial, data leaks? This is essential to identifying these areas and where to start from. Know what regulations you must follow, and this will determine where information is stored for easy access, security needed on the information, and who can see it and who shouldn't. It sounds like a lot, but take these steps in small chunks. Know what you have first and prioritize where to start based on risk and take it one bite at a time. It is important for the public sector to evaluate these steps and see what makes sense for their particular organization. The quote I showed earlier stated, without proper planning, or with proper planning, technology can make records less burdensome to manage and easier to share. That is such a true statement in every area, really. Think how much easier our lives are with technology. Electronic information can really not be managed without technology, and having information in disparate systems cannot be handled manually. The right tools can make it easier to access this information. It can provide versioning capabilities to ensure that you're seeing the latest and greatest information, and it can speed up access to information when and where you need it. One of the very important aspects of technology is that it can greatly increase accountability and transparency. Using the right tools, a user can track user actions, detect fraud, prove compliance, and ensure private information is protected. And as we all like to hear, it can reduce costs. The ability to speed up a process and make it less cumbersome will allow users to be more effective. One of the processes that can greatly benefit is FOIA. With the workflows and automated notifications, the response time to a FOIA request can be reduced drastically. Information for Ediscovery can easily be searched and collected and reduced prior to a legal review, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal review fees. So there are a lot of great benefits that technology can provide. So what is the right one? Well, it really depends on the organization. No one technology fits every organization. So what should we look for? Number one, it's easy. When I talk to customers, they always ask for an easy button. It seems obvious, but sometimes products don't really take end users' daily tasks into consideration. So look for something that's intuitive to an end user and not to a developer. Number two, an enterprise search. You have to be able to find information regardless of where it is in your enterprise. A tool should provide you with search capabilities that can secure information from the wrong hands and quickly provide information to the right people, no matter which repository it's in. Number three, it needs to be automated. You just can't say that enough. If the end user has to do anything manually, there's a less likely chance that the project will be successful. Number four, it needs to handle many formats. Regardless of the format, information should be accessible and managed according to these records requirements. It should also be auditable. It is essential that you can track what has happened on records and the information in your organization in order to detect any security risks. We also need to be able to provide access privileges. Agencies must secure information based on classification, project type, rank, etc. And last but not least, come up with your own list of special features. There's always something that's very important to a particular department, user group, role, or process, and make sure you identify that specific functionality. So how can Perceptive help? Within Perceptive Content, we have a retention policy manager that provides an intuitive designer to create and manage these retention policies. These are automatically applied to documents by assigning one or more document types to the policy. Dispositions can be set to automatically occur or can be defined to require one or more levels of approval. If the unfortunate happens and you find yourself faced with the possibility of litigation, you can easily search and place a hold on the relevant information directly within our search grid. Retention Policy Manager also lets you track physical records alongside your electronic information. We're also excited to announce with the release of Perceptive Content 7.0 that we will have a brand new Records Manager. It builds on top of our Retention Policy Manager and allows you to create and manage file plans according to your organization. It allows you to automatically apply these retention policies to your file plan and close and cut off folders for additional filing if they need to be closed. It also allows you to have a formal record declaration. This allows you to manually declare a record from a document within the system or manually declare those records directly from Microsoft Outlook. It also allows you to indicate records as vital so that you can designate review dates to make sure that that vital information is always up to date. And it also carries our DoD 5015.2 certification in case that's something that your organization needs. So as we're halfway through 2014, it has gone by fast, and there's a lot that has been done towards the 2019 goal for the feds. There are still some challenges to face, and some of those can be made a little or a lot less painful with the right plan, people, and technology in place. So take control now. So we'll have one last poll. If you're interested in learning more, go ahead and respond to this. We're looking to do a series based on different verticals other than the federal space. So at this point, we'll open up for questions. We've got about 11 minutes for questions. So if you have any, feel free to enter them in on your GoToWebinar in the questions panel. Okay, so we've got some questions. So we're not a federal agency. Do we need to have a DoD certified solution? Well, not necessarily. The DoD 5015 certification is needed for any organizations that have direct relationship with the Department of Defense. So if we're already a Perceptive Content or ImageNow customer, can we add this functionality to our current system? But certainly, these are our Retention Policy Manager and our Records Manager will be add-ons into the Perceptive Content system. Let's see. So who can we contact to help assess our needs? That's a great question. I would start off with contacting your account executive, and they would be able to engage the appropriate resources to help you with some sort of a discovery for the process. All right, we've got another question. How do I know which hardware or software is most appropriate for our needs? And that's a fantastic question. Mostly that's done through discovery. You'll need to know what your retention needs are, what your security needs are, and if you need a formal records declaration process, or if you really can just treat all of your documents in the system as records. So it varies depending on organization, and we would be happy to work with you to help you identify what you need. Looks like that's all the questions we have right now, so I'll wait just a little bit to see if we have any more follow-up questions. And if not, we can give you guys a couple minutes back in your day.